Hello, folks. Welcome to Pushing the Boundaries. It gives me great pleasure today to chat with Mohammed Faisal Alradi from Alphanar. So, what's it all about? Well, empowering tomorrow, today. That's a bold vision where the poor and vulnerable, especially women and children and refugees, are able to access the education and opportunity they need to lead productive and dignified lives. And this session is all about data-driven cultures in social enterprise. And, Mohammed has been at the forefront of their data-driven transformation. And today, I want to find out a little bit more about this charitable cause, and in particular, how data plays such a key role in their success. So, folks, let's push a few boundaries and find out some more. And let's welcome Mohammed. Welcome to Pushing the Boundaries. How are you doing today, my friend?
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me on today. I'm doing well, thank you.
Absolute pleasure. And you're in London, aren't you?
I am. I'm in London. Yes.
Yeah. I don't detect a London accent though. Where are you from originally?
I've been here for about 10 years, but so I don't think an accent is coming anytime soon. I'm originally from Canada.
Canada. Whereabouts in Canada?
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Great place.
Yes. Soon.
I
think 1 or 2 more years and I'll have a full English accent.
Maybe a combination, but
exactly.
You still got family over there?
I do. Yes. My parents and sister. I'm the only one here, but I very much enjoy it, and I'm happy I'm here because if I wasn't here, I wouldn't be able to found out about Alphanar and work at this wonderful organization. Yeah. So if I may, can I tell you just a bit about Alphanar and what we do to get things started?
Do you know what? I think that's a really good starting point. And I would love to find out from you a bit more about them. And also, I'm sure the viewers would too. So yeah, go for it.
Thank you. So my name is Mohammed Alradi. I am Alphanar's investment officer based out of London. Alphanar is the first venture philanthropy organization to operate in the Arab world. We provide management support, tailored funding, and technical assistance, including all things data related, to help social enterprises that support the most vulnerable communities in the region and help them to access quality education and employment opportunities. To date, we've operated since 2004, and to date, we have supported 35 social enterprises in 3 countries, that's Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan, changed the lives of over 68,000 people for the better. Now, I know you may ask, what is venture philanthropy? Venture philanthropy is a form of philanthropy that emphasizes long-term investment, that's a multi-year engagement, high engagement support, and an emphasis on financial sustainability. So, on average, the social enterprises in our portfolio are able to grow their impact by 35% a year and grow their non-donation income by 39% a year. So this is the main thing, because this allows them to continue serving communities even after the funding has dried up.
Yeah. So self-sustaining,
Exactly.
giving them the sort of infrastructure support, helping them grow and sustain, and not rely on things like that. So that's amazing.
That's the core of it, sustainability. I mean, venture philanthropy, the term in itself, comes from venture capital. The only difference is that we're not making a profit off it at all. So we're giving all that venture capital style support in terms of helping them with business planning, improving their data systems, HR, everything. But we're not invested in that traditional way. We are a charitable organization.
Yeah. So what gets you out of bed in the morning then? What is it that drives you to do this sort of stuff?
Well, it sounds cliche, but being able to support these social enterprises that help so many people, thousands of people, is what gets me out of bed. But I would be lying if I said there isn't this data-oriented side of me that enjoys the challenge. It's the challenge of building, designing, maintaining, and improving apps for, at this moment, 17 social enterprises working in various sectors. This could be from microloans, agriculture, IT support companies, schools, education initiatives. You have to remember that we create tailored apps for every one of our social enterprise partners, and each one of them goes down their own data journey. So that is a challenge in itself, and it definitely keeps me motivated.
I can see that, and I feel your passion there. And I worked in policing for a number of years, and again, just being able to connect what you do to the impact it has, for the community or the public or the victims out there. It's a very strong thing. Love data and love doing some good in the world. So that's fantastic. And you talked about those different places, about how you're supporting with data there. What sort of business problems typically are you trying to solve for them? What comes up most?
Well, I'd like to say first that the social enterprises that we support respond to market failures. So it's a failure to provide quality education and employment opportunities in vulnerable communities in the region. So the big challenge is, how do you provide these services in communities that don't typically have high purchasing power? Traditionally, that's where donor income would come in, because it's quite difficult to run a business in a vulnerable community. But the problem is that donor income tends to dry up. So that's where Alfanar comes in. We help them develop business models that not only allow them to cover their costs, but to also continue operations even after donor funding has dried up. We work in various sectors, as I said, from agriculture to education to artisanal products. We really span a lot of different sectors. So each one of these social enterprises has its own challenge, but I think the key common denominator is donor dependency. A better way to put it maybe would say we are trying to seed change that outlasts our funding, so that they can continue to operate even after we stop funding them and other donors stop funding them. And data really plays a big role in that, because the biggest challenge that the nonprofit sector faces is a lack of resources. That's financial resources and personnel in terms of human capital. So basically, we're overstretched. We're doing too many things, which makes adopting a data-driven culture a very challenging endeavor, because we simply don't have the time, or traditionally we didn't have the time to deep dive into these expansive data sets. In the private sector, they might have a team of analysts that churn out reports every day that are then received by senior management, who are then able to make data-driven decisions. Unfortunately, we don't have those teams of analysts in the nonprofit sector. It's a luxury we can't afford. So often we are forced to make decisions based on incomplete data, anecdotal evidence, or just theory if we're working on the ground. That's where tools like Click and Infinity Forms come in, because it bridges the gap. It gives us the analytical capacities that have been traditionally reserved for companies in the private sector.
So you're augmenting traditional analytics. You're doing all the legwork, packaging stuff up to help them make actionable decisions, in their organizations. So is that effectively what you're doing?
Yeah, and I mean, I just like to point that in a a sector that's defined by scarcity, as I said, making the right decisions is crucial, because every dollar, every pound, every euro, every currency, I could go on, counts.
Yeah.
So it is really integral that money is spent in the best way possible, because resources are limited. And that's why adopting a data-driven culture and tools like Click and Infinity Form are really game changers, because
Yeah.
they allow us to operate with banks and other companies that can afford these big teams of analysts.
That's amazing. So you kind of you're bringing it to literally democratizing it to those that traditionally couldn't, and they can with you what you're doing. That's brilliant. Tell me a little bit more, just a bit more detail about how you're using Click and Infinity. Then, so what sort of things are you using it for?
Yeah. So for Click, the biggest use case I'd say is, as a venture philanthropy organization, we help organizations develop multi-year business plans or strategies. Into these business plans, we need to really deep dive into data so that they can know how to tailor the few resources they have to reach the most people. So if we're taking, an example of an organization that provides vocational training and microloans in rural Egypt, this is an organization that's dealing with thousands and thousands of people, and they have limited funds. Through Click, we can view which communities benefit in different ways. Maybe X community should receive this training and this level of funding. Maybe Y, this type of training doesn't really work out in Y. So tailoring interventions is something that tended to be quite difficult in the past, because you can imagine someone who's juggling 6 roles, and you present him or her with, an Excel sheet with, 50,000 lines or something, and they're asked to say, we're making a business plan. Can you tell us what works and doesn't? That's going to be a really challenging affair. So that's one way that it's being used. I'd say the other way is, things that are more basic. Like, we work with a lot of organizations in the education sector. Sometimes the teachers have to handle hundreds of students. Through something like Click, they can easily spot trends in terms of performance and attendance, something that would have been harder in the past. Maybe it would take them longer to figure out, which might have led to a student dropping out. This way, they could intervene faster. So, it's there's so many examples, because we work in so many different sectors. Yeah, but it's as I said, it's a real game changer.
It is a game changer. What about Forms then?
Oh yes, sorry.
How does that come into it?
Yeah, Forms. I'll tell you, Forms has become more popular since COVID-19 has hit, because as a result of COVID-19, more people are involved in the data part of work. More people have an interest in it, because traditionally they would have, for example, been able to go to the field and view things firsthand, or they would have been able to ask the data person in the office, in his or her silo in the corner, what's this or this. Now everyone needs to be engaged. So for me, that's a good problem, because it means I've had to give more Click tokens to users, so more people can use it. And it's also led to more questions. So they're asking things like, how can we better streamline data entry? We need real-time analytics. How can we integrate data entry within the Click environment as well? Because we want to stay in the Click environment as much as possible. We don't really want to work with these bulky spreadsheets. So that's where Infinity Forms has come into play. It really fits in well with the model, and it keeps the narrative within Click itself. And that's what I want. I want engagement within Click to increase. So if people can enter data into Click and see the results immediately, for me, that's a great positive and something that really pushes social enterprises along into adopting a data-driven culture.
Yeah, that's the brilliant explanation of how you utilize that technology, combination of technology to achieve that. And I've been talking a lot about it, that, sort of fourth gen analytics. Everyone's got their own view on it, whether it's AI or what have you. But actually, it's about bringing people into the analytics. So traditionally, it's just been pushed to you, but actually having things like forms, it allows you to be part of, add context to engagement. I think you use those words you use there, engagement with the analytics, all in one place, real time, seeing the changes when you put them in. I think, that's for me. And if people are good at understanding how to exploit that technology, which is kind of those use cases you were showing, shows that you guys really know how to do that, then it is game changing. And I think that's a really powerful message around the COVID story, that actually we need to be doing things a bit differently. We need to use technology that's there to help us do better things, to support those colleagues that are out there, difficult situations. We want to make it quick and easy for them, don't we? And I think it sounds like you're doing just that.
Yes, thank you. Can I just say one more thing about Infinity Forms? And I think this is one of the more undervalued tools that they provide. Aside from data entry, which is great, they also provide a commenting tool, which for me, it's very basic, but it has revolutionized the way I work. Because traditionally, let's say I'm working with a social enterprise, I notice something funny in their data, or I have a question, or, like, how do you want this to look, etc. So I always have to write these long emails to them saying, if you go to this page in this app and you click on these 5 filters, you'll see something that doesn't quite add up or look right. Can you confirm that with me? I mean, that's the way I had to communicate with social enterprises. But now with the comments tool, I can literally preset the filters, write the notes, and the person on the other side, I could just send a quick message saying, hey, can you check out this comment? And they'll check it out and they'll respond. So it's actually cut down on these like really long correspondences I have. So I just wanted to, just so people don't forget about this commenting function, I think it is like a really, really great tool.
It's always the simple things, isn't it? And it's the basic things in life which make a difference. So that's really good to hear as well.
Exactly.
Great stuff. And what from what you've been doing, what sort of lessons have you learned along the way? What can we learn from your work, Mohammed?
That's a difficult question. If I may, could I give perhaps 2 lessons and a challenge?
Yeah, of course.
So the first thing is, I would say there's never too little data. We work with some social enterprises that maintain professional databases that process a large volume of data on a daily basis. We also work with some social enterprises that have simple Excel databases, soon to be shifted to Infinity Forms. With at most a few hundred lines. But even small data sets visualized can lead to powerful insights. I think we're all visual learners in a way, so it's never too early to start transforming data with tools like Click and Infinity Forms. The second thing I'd like to say is when given the opportunity, the nonprofit sector is just as data-driven and savvy as the private sector. Tools like Click and Infinity Forms help bridge that divide, and it gives us the analytical capacities that otherwise would not have been possible. The challenge is keeping up with demand, because from what I've seen, data seems to be undervalued at the start because it's not used. Like, as I said, you just have these bulky Excel sheets. No one wants to look at them. No one has the time. But the minute people see that data visualized, the minute they even generate one insight, that's all it takes, then you start getting more questions. Then you start getting can I see it this way? Can I have this visualization? Could I have these indicators? Could I add more data? Could I change our data model? The more people engage with the data, the more they generate insights, the more these requests comes, and it's challenging to keep up with it. But I think since this is such a popular service that Elfinar provides to social enterprises, that our data team, currently just me, will expand very soon. So that's the good news. It's a challenge, but I think it's a good problem because it shows that it's popular and it's a required service.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, some great insights there. I think the first one you said about actually showing stuff, what it can do, shining a light, peeling back a bit of the organisation that you've never seen before from a data perspective. It can be quite jaw dropping. Personally, I've got examples in my career where you think, wow, I cannot believe that you have a lot of cultural stuff, a lot of things, and everyone thought it was this way. But when you start to look at the data, you start to challenge those traditional ways of working, the traditional viewpoints. Actually, it's quite different. And until you actually do it, start showing people find it hard to get engaged. And when you do, that challenge is about working and managing the open the floodgates and it all starts coming towards you. But I think it's just so important to have that business shaping, being part of that data-driven culture. Without it, if it's just done to them, you'll never get success. Being part of it, you will, although it might be difficult at times with the demand, but great stuff.
I mean, even for Elfinar itself, like looking at our fundraising arm, because of COVID, we haven't been able to, launch the typical in-person events that we would hold for fundraising. So we've shifted to an online model, and actually, Click has been very useful for that because we have maintained, my colleague Freddie has maintained an amazing database, which I've loaded into Click, and from it, we're able to better target different groups with appeals because we could say, this organization or these group of people tend to support this. So maybe we can send them some content saying, hey, this is how the education oriented social enterprise we support are responding to COVID. This is how the social enterprises involved in IT support and programming support are responding to COVID. So really on every level, adopting this data-driven culture has been beneficial for our social enterprises and for Elfinar itself.
And, thinking about the impact that you and Elfinar, so 68,000 people, probably rising, it's probably more than that now, I guess, impacted by your work. And that's at the macro level. You've given a sort of strategic thing. Are there any personal stories that really tugs at your heartstrings? Is there something personal to you that's really sort of shone out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all the social enterprises we support do wonderful work. So there are many examples, but for me, I'd have to say one that really tugs at the heartstrings is called the EMEL program. EMEL means hope in Arabic, and this is the same organization I was describing earlier that provides vocational training and loans to widows in Egypt. And the purpose of these trainings and loans is to help them create or expand businesses that not only improves their quality of life, but the quality of life of their children and families. As a data-oriented person, this project is very attractive because it's very clear. You have inputs. The inputs are training and funding. The output is an increase in income. So it's a very clear correlation, and it's actually 33% increase in income on average. That's that's just, and we measure also some non-financial indicators like improvements in happiness, health, education for the children. So in a data perspective, it's very attractive, but obviously it really impacts you when you actually visit these communities in person. And I've had the privilege of being able to do that. So actually visiting the communities impacted by this program, seeing the smiles on people's faces, their confidence and pride as they present their businesses is really something that, you know, makes you think I'm very lucky that I have this job and I'm able to you know, participate in helping people in this way. And honestly, I mean, even one time I even got to talking with one of the beneficiaries, and just seeing the financial savvy. This lady was, you know, talking about strategies of how to expand her business, how she prices her commodities. So for me, I'm saying, you know, this person who was living in difficulty before is now a proud business owner with a lot of ambition and know-how. This story really is one that tugged on the heartstrings. Yes.
I'm not surprised. And was it ML? Did you say?
Amal, yeah, AMAL. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a great way to put that across. And I think, you know, the story that you used there, but, you know, replicated across, you know, the wider groups that you have and across the world. We all need a bit of that at the moment, don't we? And I think, you know, those personal stories, that experience, when you live and breathe, you know, those types of things, you can't be trained, that sort of stuff, can you? You can't buy that kind of thing. It really does define you as a person and an organisation. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I think that's, again, for everyone to reach out and connect how their roles in data actually impact the real world and people's lives, you know, is you know, where, you know, we need to do more of that connection. So thank you for sharing that. It's really,
no, you're welcome.
Really
I'd just like to say that you know, when I commented on that one beneficiary I spoke to, I think that this program has impacted 15,000 widows. So I'm thinking that this story is replicated, you know, many times over. So I think that's something that can really change communities. And then I think, how has Click and data contribute to that? Well, it has allowed the ML program to say, in this community or that community, we should concentrate on this training. We should emphasize this type of support. So it's, you know, we haven't fully comprehended how COVID has changed the way we work. But one positive, I'd say, is that it has kind of expedited this transformation into becoming data-driven social enterprises. And I'm very happy to see more organizations and more people within the organizations have access to Click, engage with it, and even send me messages saying, can we add this? Can we change this? Can we change that? I really hope this continues.
Yeah, I hope so too. And you know, it's I think it's incredibly useful to share these stories with others that like yourselves that are looking to do you know, the not-for-profit social enterprise. And you know, we need to hear more good stories. You know, we need to hear more success stories, because it will encourage more people to do things like that as well and be part of things. You know, we hear a lot of doom and gloom, you know, on the news, how it filters through to us. But hopefully there'll be a few people that watch this today and think, do you know what? I'm going to do something different today. And, you know, going back to your mission, empowering tomorrow today. Hopefully we just a little bit of this has empowered tomorrow today, and you've been part of that. And if people want to find out some more resources, Mohammed, so if they want to know a bit more about what you do, what's the best place for them to go and find out?
Yeah, you could check out our work on www.alfanar.org.uk. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm probably forgetting a social media platform, but we're on all of those. So please check us
TikTok.
out.
No.
Exactly. Subscribe to, I need to check on that. Please subscribe to our mailing list or find us on social media. And I'd also like to thank you and Infinity and Click and Differential Consulting for all the support that you've given us. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Oh, we're pleased to be part of it, and thank you so much for coming on today. And and maybe at some point have a follow up to see, talk about growing and doing bigger things. Hopefully, you'll come back one day and tell us all about it.
I would love to. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Mohammed. Take care, my friend.
You too. Thank you.